Hi, it's me, Daphne. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I wanted to give you some historical romance recs in preparation for the Historical Romance Readathon coming up in August. If you don't know about this yet, I'm gonna link my announcement video up in the corner for you to check out. This readathon is hosted by Maggie from Maggie's Books and Stuff. I'm one of the co-hosts. My team is Team Blue Stockings. So if you wanna join along, definitely check that video out. But the gist is, there are a bunch of co-hosts and we're all on separate teams of like heroines in a typical historical romance, right? And we are all battling to get the most points in order to win the most desirable, eligible bachelor/bachelorette. And it's Bridgerton themed, so there are gonna be like almost like whistle down papers with all the drama, and there's gonna be like a choose your own adventure thing. It's all in Discord. That's just a brief synopsis. If you want more, definitely check out the video. I'll link it down below as well. Anyway, I wanted to offer you some recommendations from all the historical books I've read and the ones that I've liked the most. So these are all gonna be like 4 stars and up for the most part. I don't think I put any 3 stars on there. I have read a ton of historicals, but I wanted to curate this list for the ones that I liked the most. So let's just get started. I have a lot of books I want to tell you about, so I'm just gonna give you a brief synopsis of them. Alright, so I've mixed in some fantasies as well because I feel like fantasy romances tend to be like riding horses kind of vibes, which are historical, in my opinion. You know, like it's not like a classic historical, but like it's still historical. So the first book I'm going to talk about is Traitor Witch. I read this recently. This is about a lunar witch who's on the run because she's been framed for these murders, and she is on a pirate ship with a ton of like paranormal guys, and they're all mated to her, but she doesn't know that she's their mates, and they're keeping it a secret, and they're gonna help her. I'm on the second book already. I'm having a good time. It is reverse harem, but it is super slow burn. In the first one, the plot is pretty good. I'm intrigued. I'm having a fun time, and I'm ready for the spicy bits. So here's to book 2. I'm still like early days in book 2. Then I want to talk about king-sized and queen-sized. So these are some really short novellas. I think these are by Jessica Cain. These are one of the Jessica Cain books that I actually enjoy. So king-sized is like a bodyguard type of romance. So this young woman becomes orphaned all of a sudden. She's a princess, so now she's the queen, and the only person she trusts is one of her bodyguards who's been like in love with her for a long time, and they build a relationship together. It's very short, it's very steamy, it's a fun time. I don't want to tell you too much. And then queen-sized, there is a king who is overseeing this like competition where women in the village come to like show their skills to try to like attract a husband. So they'll do like cooking and like water carrying and all these things, and the king sees this one woman and he's like, oh my god, she's gorgeous, I need her to be my mistress. But this young woman has some young sisters that she needs to take care of, so she doesn't want to just be the king's mistress. She's like, I need a husband, like I need to have this locked down, like I need to be a good role model for my sisters and stuff, like I'm not gonna be your mistress. And he's determined to win her over, and she's determined to resist. Another fun, steamy time, and it's short. So if you're trying to get some points on the board, though Maggie is doing points based on page count, which is great, but also adds like another layer of challenge. You can't just be reading short books, I don't know. But if you are in the mood for a short one as like a palate cleanser, these two are great. And then I have How to Love a Duke in 10 Days. This one was also really fun. So this is a very classic kind of historical romance vibe. It has a bunch of mystery. I believe this is the one where the heroine is like in some kind of school for young women, and then like one of the men working there like assaults her, and she's like overcoming this trauma, and I think she's in like a marriage of convenience with this guy to try to like save her friend from like a loveless marriage or something, and there's a mystery, like a murder mystery thing going on. It was a fun time. I thought the way the author handled the abuse was pretty good, and it was a storyline I hadn't read before, so I enjoyed it. I also have Highlander Most Wanted. This is the second book in a series, and I believe, like I read a lot of these a while ago. I haven't been reading a lot of historicals in the last few months, so these are like from back in 2022, 2021. So the memories are a little faded, which is kind of fun because then it means I can reread them if I want one day. But I believe this one was about a young woman in like Scotland or something. I think it's like with clans and stuff. Where she's living is overrun by like these bad people, but this guy from another clan like comes in and like takes over the town, and he's like a better person, and then like they fall in love or something. I don't remember. It ties in with the first book. There's a lot of like clan tension, but I did prefer the second one over the first one. I think the first one has to do with our heroine maybe being deaf, but people think she's like not intelligent. They don't realize that she's deaf. They just think she's dumb, which is sad. So next I have The Raven Prince, and I'm gonna add on The Leopard Prince. This is book 1 and book 2 in a series. There are 3 books in the series, but I didn't really like the third one. I only gave it 3 stars. But The Raven Prince I gave 5 stars, and The Leopard Prince I gave 4 stars. So The Raven Prince is kind of like a Beauty and the Beast retelling. Our hero is very self-conscious about his looks. He has a lot of like pock marks, which is basically like acne scarring, and he thinks he's really ugly, and he needs a secretary type person to help him with his things that he just needs to get done. So he hires someone, and he thinks it's a man, but it ends up being our heroine, this beautiful woman. He is very attracted to her, but he is not going to do anything because 1, professionalism, and 2, he thinks like he has no shot. But she is like falling in love with him, and it's their story. There's like this whole like mistaken identity thing because she kind of tricks him into thinking she's somebody else, and they have like an intimate moment. He's still obsessed with her, but he's like going to this other woman, and like it's a fun time. I had a really great time reading this. I would definitely reread it. I think I reread it a couple times, like more recently to when I read it the first time, just like my favorite parts. I do that. And then The Leopard Prince, I don't really remember what that one was about, but I think it was like a class difference kind of story. Maybe the woman was a class above the man, and they had to keep their relationship a secret, and he was ashamed that he was of a lower class. I just remember there was a door scene. Like, he had her up against the door, if I remember correctly, and it was fun still, even though I don't remember the details. I remember that. Then I'm gonna talk about a book that I physically own, which is Bringing Down the Duke. This is a really fun time too. This is a feminist kind of vibe where our main heroine is like trying to get women's rights. It's like the women's suffrage movement in Britain, and our hero is like an aristocrat who has a lot of sway in the political landscape or whatever, and he is trying to resist her because he's like, oh, I am too sophisticated for her, or like she would never like fit into like my world because she's not of the same like social class as me or whatever. And it's their romance. I really enjoyed this. I think this might be Evie Dunmore's debut, and it was really good, but there are 2 more books in this series, and I did not like them as much. The second book I thought was kind of confusing. Like the writing just wasn't, like I just couldn't visualize things that well, and I didn't think the relationship was built out that well. And then the third book was better in certain aspects, and then horrendous in other aspects. So just like skip the second and the third one. You don't need to read those ones. This one, the first one, I feel like she had more time with it to like really cultivate it, and it shows. Like the first one was really good. Fun time, would recommend. Next, I have The Bronze Horsemen. So I am desperate to reread this. This is the first book in a trilogy, I believe. I think it's only a trilogy that surrounds the same couple. I don't know exactly what year it is, but it's like World War II era. It says, their world is turned upside down when Hitler's armies attack Russia and begin their unstoppable blitz on Leningrad. I read this back in high school. I really, really want to reread it. I have books 2 and 3 now. I only had book 3 previously because I found it in a thrift store, but I bit the bullet and I bought the second one on Amazon. So now I have the full collection, and I hope to binge the series. Maybe I'll add it to my book club. I don't know how accessible this series is, but let me know if you'd be interested in reading this with me because I'm very excited, and hopefully it's as good as I remember. I just remember there's a lot of drama. The main conflict in the romance for this is that it's like right person, wrong time. So our main heroine is in love with this guy. He's like I think he's like a military guy, but he's engaged to her sister, and there's just like so much pining and like betrayal, and there's just so much tragedy going on because of the war, and like people are starving, and there's so much poverty, and it was just very dramatic. It's a very long book. It's almost 800 pages, but I ate it up. The first time I read it, I thought it left off on the biggest cliffhanger in the entire world, which it does, but I just thought that was the end of the story. but actually the story continues. So maybe they will have a happily ever after at some point, but like I thought it just ended with sadness. So I'm excited to like reread it, get used to this world and these characters again and the drama, and then continue on with this couple's story, and then hopefully they'll be happily in love at the end of it all. And then I have another book that I read recently, which is A Ship of Bones and Teeth. This is another fantasy book, and I feel like it's historical because they're riding and they're like floating around in this big ship, like an old sail kind of ship, you know, so it feels historical, so we're gonna count it. This is like a little mermaid retelling, but make it dark. So our main heroine is a siren. She sees Prince Eric or whatever on the shore, and she falls in love with him, and she makes a deal with the witch, like the normal story, but it's very dark. And she regrets her decision right away. Like the darker aspects is that like witch cuts out her tongue, that's why she can't talk, but her tongue like regenerates after a year, so like she can talk in the book. And she can't walk very well, like her legs are very weak, like she's always stumbling and stuff. She doesn't need a walking aid or anything. Her love interest is this pirate that attacks her ship when she's on the ship with her husband. So it's been like 10 years she's been married to Eric, like miserable, like he abuses her and stuff. So she finally escapes him and has this new love interest, which is a pirate, and his crew, like you get to meet his crew and all that stuff, and there are things that are revealed about this crew that are like extra magical elements that I was very shocked by. I was not expecting that at all, but I ate it up. It was fun. The book is just kind of long. It felt like there were like maybe 4 epilogues in the book just to like tie up all the loose ends, but it felt like the book should have been over already. Like the order was kind of weird. But that's just my personal opinion. I think it's still like a fun time that I would recommend. Just a little long. If you love epilogues, you'll love the way this book ends. Another novella that you could pick up is His Beauty. This is a monster romance, historical, a Beauty and the Beast retelling, where the beast stays a beast. That's all you really need to know. Next, I have Aphrodite and the Duke. This is a black historical romance. This is about Aphrodite and this guy, Evander. She was in love with him when she was younger. They were supposed to get married, but he leaves her suddenly without like really any explanation and marries another woman. Now they're both back in town. He is a widower, and it's their love story and their second chance at love. This book was pretty good. I feel like the writing wasn't my favorite. If you're looking for some diversity in your reading, this is a good classic formula for historical romance with black characters. And there's a big family, so I think there's at least a second book already, but I haven't picked it up yet. Next, I'm gonna recommend the Tempting Monsters series. So the first book is A Lady of Rooksgrave Manor. I'm currently reading 1.5, which is The Basilisk of Star Manor. And then I already read book 2, which is The Company of Fiends. And these are really fun. They definitely give historical London vibes, but they're all monster reverse harem romances. I don't know about book 1. I mean, I don't know about book 1.5. I think that's just like traditional monogamous pair. And Sanctuary of Kings just came out in July, which I will probably read soon. Maybe I'll add it to my TBR if I feel like it. I've already done my TBR video, but I kind of forgot about this one. So maybe I'll read this in August or soon after. But yeah, so that is just like the first one. The woman is working in a fancy brothel type place where they have monster clients. It's all very consensual. And then the second book is a theater where they do like these elaborate sexual shows for their monster clienteles with monsters and stuff. And there's this underlying mystery or like underlying evil villain across the books that they are battling. And I'm enjoying the series very much, so definitely recommend that if you're looking for some monstery fun times. Another historical romance is That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon. This also has a black heroine. So in this one, our heroine is just like trying to live her cute little life on her cinnamon farm with her family or whatever. But all these demons are going crazy, and she kind of comes across this demon and like knocks him with a cinnamon stick and like wakes him up from this trance he's been under. And he's like, hey, I need your help to stop this evil witch who's like manipulating the demons and like, I don't know, like she has them under this spell. So she has to help him break the curse, and she's like, oh, I really don't want to go, but he makes her, and it's their romance. So it's like a fun, silly time. I read 1.5 as well, which is kind of like a Christmassy one, I think. Not even Christmassy, it's just like snowy in the picture. It's like really short. That was fun also, and I should continue the series. I think the second one has to do with a werewolf, but I haven't gotten around to it. I should probably prioritize that. Next, I have a Beverly Jenkins book. All of her books are going to be pretty good for the Historical Romance Readathon. I liked this one in particular. This one's called Destiny's Embrace. This is about Mariah, who is trying to escape her life in Philadelphia, so she answers an ad in California to be a housekeeper for this man, Logan, and it's their romance. Just a very classic setup. You get to meet his family. You can tell it sets up for other books in the series. She is very strong-willed. She takes as good as, she gives as good as she gets. So if he gives her a hard time, she's quick to like dish it back, you know? So fun time. I was chuckling out loud reading it, and I would definitely recommend. Next, I have To Beguile a Beast by Elizabeth Hoyt. This is the third book in her The Legend of the Four Soldiers series. The first two I only gave 3 stars. I'm gonna just jump to the third one. And this one I believe is also a Beauty and the Beast retelling. Who knew there were so many Beauty and the Beast retellings that I've read? I did not realize this until now. So this man has been scarred through being like a soldier and stuff. He keeps to himself and his estate. His estate has kind of gone into disrepair. It's like a mess. He barely keeps his staff. And for whatever reason, this woman is sent on his doorstep. I think actually one of the heroines in another book knows him, and our main heroine in this book, she's being helped by her, and she gets sent to his place to like escape her husband or something. Like she's running from some kind of abuse, so she's kind of like hiding out at this guy's place, basically saying she's gonna be a housekeeper, and I think she has a child. Yeah, she has 2 children. So he's getting to know her and her kids and like opening up and just falling in love with her and her little family, and it was just very sweet. I loved it. I should really reread these. I really enjoy Elizabeth Hoyt's writing. I would recommend her in general as a historical romance author if you're looking for new authors to read from. And then the next book I'm gonna recommend is part of a trilogy, and that book is A Promise of Fire. This story is a historical fantasy romance, and it's really fun. So our heroine is something called a kingmaker. She has this ability to like tell if people are lying, and our hero, he is like the head leader of like the military, I guess, for his sister, who's the new queen in this area, and he needs this woman's power as they like establish themselves in this new kingdom they've like just taken over. So he captures her. It's a captor-captive romance too, and there's like a magical rope. He like ties her to him and she can't escape, and it was really fun. And the way the story evolves was also really interesting to learn more about who this kingmaker woman is, how her powers are like evolving, or like what they really mean, and just like other powers that she has that you like learn. I love their dynamic. I just loved it. The only thing I will say is the ending with like the villain. I felt like kind of went by really quick. Like I didn't like how that wrapped up. I almost felt like, what happened? You know, it didn't make sense to me. But the romance was really, really fun. There were some like feminist takes on stuff, but I won't go into that. I would just recommend it for sure. All right, so that's all the recommendations I have for the Historical Romance Readathon. I'm very excited to participate, and hopefully I can read at least 5 books. I'm not the fastest reader, but I'm planning to give us at least a few points for our team. Again, join Team Blue Stockings if you want to be on my team. And please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and subscribe down below if you haven't already. I'd greatly appreciate it. Obviously, it really helps out my channel. If you want to hang out with me some more, you can find me on Instagram at being.daphne. That's all I have for today, and I will catch you in another video. Bye!